Hey guys, my name's Mannequin and welcome back to Mastering EDM with FL Studio. So last time we talked about the clipper and went through all this one as much as we could, and now we're going to talk about the protection. So this is going to be a shorter video than usual, just because as you can see here, we only have 3 settings here to mess with. And the first 2 are pretty self-explanatory. We have the output, which just kind of adjusts the volume level, and then the ceiling here, and that's, pretty simple there. But I'm going to give you some tips as to how you could use this or how you could layer things and kind of fashion this differently. Despite the fact that this is in one rigid plugin, you could actually split this up using multiple instances and have a bit more fun. But without further ado, let's get into this. So as I said, output and ceiling are self-explanatory. We're not going to talk too much about those, but we will kind of adjust them, other than the fact that, we'll just leave ceiling at 0 for now. But here we go. We have a couple options down here for the mode of the limiter. And so we have digital clip, which has been on for pretty much the whole series that we've been talking about this so far, because that's kind of the least... It affects the dynamics the least. It's the least interesting one in terms of what it does. And then we have ISP fast and ISP precise, which once again, that's intersample peaks. So what we're looking at here is we're going to get the audio in a digital format, and it's going to change to analog. And when it does that, sometimes we'll get strange peaks that'll pop up or kind of things will change just because digital is one thing, but analog is another. And we can't translate those directly and expect things to work out perfectly. A good example for this is, let's say, teleporting. You can't teleport in real life. You could be moving along, and then if you say in the digital realm, okay, and then teleport over here, then when you have that in analog, it'll be moving, and it'll say, oh, I'm supposed to teleport over here. Well, I can't do that, so I'm just going to go as fast as I can to this area. So that's kind of what we're working with in terms of intersample peaking. And it's just, catching that stuff and dealing with it. So in other words, basically this final protection here is a brick wall limiter that will prevent your audio from going past a certain point, period. And it's just completely unflexible. It does not let anything pass at all. So we've been leaving it at digital clip for now, but now I'm going to switch to intersample peaking fast and precise. And you can take a listen to that and kind of decide where you think it should sit. So we'll take a listen to a couple different sections here and decide which one we're going to leave it at. And I'll talk about the pros and cons of each as well. So here we go. This is the loudest area, so we'll take a listen to this. And then the final section over here, take a listen to this area. Switch modes. And one more time. Okay, so now that you've kind of got an idea as to what the difference is, let me talk about the use cases and kind of, what you should be expecting from these. So the first one here, digital clip, is very transparent in terms of the dynamics. So it leaves the dynamics of your track alone. It doesn't try to squash things. And what that causes is it retains all your dynamics, but it can cause clipping. And that's kind of, obvious given the name, digital clip. Now, this one of the things this also does is in the high end, if you have clipping in the high end, it can make things sound very bright, and in some cases makes it sound harsh. Other cases just makes it sound nice and crispy. So that's what digital clipping kind of sounds like. ISP fast sounds a lot smoother, and it kind of sounds like things are rounded off a bit more. That's because this one actually affects the dynamics of your track. So you kind of want to be careful about using this one. You could see we're doing in these various sections. We're doing up to about 2.5 dB of compression using ISP fast. And ISP precise, we'll see generally the same thing. But the difference between ISP fast and precise is ISP fast is kind of, it's kind of like when you get a limiter and you set it to no look ahead, and then ISP precise is when you let it look ahead. Kind of in the regard where ISP fast is more focused on taking care of things quickly and without too much processing power. ISP precise is focused on doing the math for certain and making sure that it's doing it correctly. And I believe it actually uses a some sort of interpolation to kind of make sure that it's getting the right signal level on this one. So ISP fast and precise are going to sound a lot more similar to each other than digital clip is going to sound to either of them. And fast kind of sounds a bit more rounded out than precise, in my opinion. But this is something that's kind of subjective. I'm not 100% sure if this is actually going to be the case all across the board. But it should give you, just a little bit of an idea as to what my thoughts are after listening to those. So digital clip is going to be your brightest sort of tone, and then inner sample peak, is going to be smoother, and we have the fast version pushing things back in the mix and kind of sounding a little bit more rounder. ISP precise is kind of like a mix between. Because it's a little bit better with the dynamics, but it doesn't have the brightness of digital clip. So the question of the day is, which one should we use for this track? And this is where, quite honestly, it kind of depends on your taste. Digital clip is the one that I like for most of this track because I like the way it leaves the dynamics where they are, and we get some very bright areas in the hi-hats and stuff. So we'll go over here. It just lets the hats shine through a little bit more, and it also lets the clap be a bit more present. So that's one of the major things. And then additionally, the kick drum, the high end of the kick drum, cuts through a lot better with digital clipping. When I go to ISP precise, however, we get one nice benefit, and that's this area over here that was clipping before. It's no longer clipping, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. So for that reason, I'm kind of tempted to just drop it onto ISP precise instead of digital clipping, just because there are some areas where you could kind of hear clipping throughout the track, and even though it's very subtle, I just kind of, I like to stray away from clipping, so I probably go for ISP precise on this one. Though I can see why a lot of people would do digital clip, and when I first did the master on this, I did digital clip as well because it just brightens up the track and the dynamics are a bit better. So that's kind of your main decision here. Do you want to do digital clipping, or do you want to run ISP precise and kind of focus on either A, no clipping, or B, a little bit better tone? So that's kind of what I'm feeling for both of these options here. ISP fast. Not too many use cases for it. Once again, listen to it, figure out if it'll fit the tone of your track. If it does, great. Otherwise, I just suggest using ISP precise and digital clip. So that's that. Now, I did say there's a way we kind of split this up. Because one of the things is, despite the fact that we have the option for digital clipping here and ISP precise, and we're having a little bit of an issue with having digital clipping, what we could do is we could turn the output down and then have it, ISP precise, so it's just working very subtly here. And let's see, so what we could do is basically this sort of thing. So we have, see around here, it's not doing much at all. And when we go over here, it's just barely kicking in. And we could go to a more active area over here, for example. And it's working it a bit more. So now what we do after this is we get another instance of limiter number 6. And then if this works, okay, cool. So we have that off, 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 off. Everything is off here except for this last one. And then we could do our digital clipping. So we'll set that maximum output at 0. And then what we'll do is we'll push this back up and see what that does for this area. This might do it. It's still clipping, but essentially what you could do is you could kind of combine limiters and adjust the order so that this particular area, for example, what I could do is actually, I could turn down the ceiling with automation so that for this area, you notice that it's doing a lot of protection here now, but over here, you know, we're running the digital clipping, but you don't hear that distortion. And what that means we could do is have this one doing very little work and this one doing a little bit of our clipping here, so we kind of let things shine through in that regard. So what that looked like over here. And boom, we have the best of both worlds. So we get the digital clipping in the active areas, so it sounds nice and bright, and we're not doing too much with the dynamics in this particular limiter here. And then when we move over to this area, what we could do is we could just create an automation clip and turn down the ceiling on this one so that it catches that big peak there from that impact, and then it doesn't cause peaking and clipping in this area. So that's what we could do, and that's actually an option to where you could choose the limiters you want to use and mix and match them to kind of get the best balance. And one of the things you can do, but you want to be careful about doing, is, as I said, we could do some automation throughout this track, and that can allow us to bring up the level a little bit more and give us a bit more flexibility in terms of, you know, adjusting volume levels across the track. But one of the things you want to be careful about is if you do it too much, it'll become apparent in your mix and it'll sound like someone has their finger on a fader and they're just pulling things up and down, and your track doesn't have its own dynamics anymore. It sounds like someone's turning up and down the volume and it starts to sound weird. So you can do some automation, but my suggestion is, if you're going to do it, only do it for things like this where you're like, okay, this is our one problem spot in the track, so we're going to do a little bit of automation to fix that one spot. But otherwise, I wouldn't suggest doing too much automation. Anyway, that's all for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and hope you got some out of it. Trying to cut down the video length so that we're not like 20 minutes per video now. And it looked like this one ended up hitting a pretty decent time. But anyway, look forward to the upcoming videos where we're going to talk about EQing for mastering, and I'm going to have a few other plugins I'm going to suggest to you guys for that. And then after that, we may get into some regular compression if I could find a good compressor for that, because sometimes it is nice to have a fast peak RMS, or not an RMS, a fast peak compressor, and let that kind of enhance the dynamics of your track a bit more, instead of taking these ones which are just kind of killing the dynamics. So but anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.